Dory's Story by a guy by the name of Pallotta. And my kids, when they're your age, they love books by Pallotta. He writes a lot of stories about the ocean. So my mom and dad always told me, you're just a kid, so don't ever go out in the boat alone. But one night I learned about plankton. These teeny sea creatures are invisible during the day, but sometimes after dark, they light up, and I wanted to learn more. So how many of you have been out in a boat? Here you can see a boat in the story. How many of you have been on a boat sometime? Any of you been on a boat? Boats are fun, going on lakes or rivers, or in this case, on the ocean. Let's see what he's going to do here. This is Dory's story. The next morning, the ocean was flat and calm. I couldn't resist. I pushed the dory out and decided to row to the big rock in the middle of the bay. So this kind of boat is called a dory. And here we see a little bird called a sandpiper.
I thought it was like you for a second.
And I think on our previous page, there might have been something I could share about plankton. Here, we're going to go back here and tell me if you can hear this. Supposedly you should hear this. This is
bioluminescence means light produced by natural and living organisms. Many sea creatures and sea plants, including some plankton, krill, anemones, coral, fish, and jellyfish, can use bioluminescence to glow in the dark. To make the light, these creatures all have special chemicals in their bodies. The chemicals combine and react together and make a glow. Different colors are made by different chemicals, but the most frequent colors are green, blue, and purples. When a group of bioluminescent creatures are together, they can light up a whole patch of ocean, just like the boy is sailing out to sea. Most bioluminescent organisms live in the oceans, but do you recognize this flying bioluminescent insect? Right, it's a firefly. The glow of the firefly's tail is a chemical reaction that produces the glowing light.
So could you hear that this time, Miss Taryn?
Yeah.
Miss Cosby?
Yes, we could. Yeah,
All right.
at first it was super loud.
Yeah, was it too loud? I'll turn it down next time. It's a little hard to control that. So here, this little boy, he's finding these bioluminescent. And when I was out on that boat that I showed you, I also had a chance to see those little organisms that were glowing in the water, kind of like fireflies that we see. All right, so this little boy, he's going out in the bay now in his boat. As I rowed, I noticed dozens of seabirds circling around. Grandpa says that where there are seabirds, there are fish. So I kept on rowing. There's some big seagulls. I looked over the side of the boat. I saw hundreds and hundreds of tiny shrimp swimming. I guessed that the little shrimp were eating the plankton, which are those little things that are very small. And you see, the seabird just keeps hanging around. As I was rowing toward the big rock, I saw schools of sand lances. These are sand lances. Some people call these fish sand eels. The sand eels were chasing and eating the shrimp. So here's these little teeny shrimp, and they're eating the plankton that glows in the dark, and the little sand eels are eating the shrimp. I heard something splashed, and I looked over the bow of the boat. I heard more splashes. I looked closer, and I saw mackerels chasing and eating the sand eels. See, mackerels are another type of fish. How many of you guys have ever gone fishing? Yeah, it's fun to catch. And these mackerels are about the size of stuff that we would catch. Ooh, look at these fish here. Then I saw them bluefish. Yikes! The bluefish were swimming like crazy and eating the mackerels. It was a feeding frenzy. Bluefish have razor-sharp teeth. I learned that the hard way. Last year, I put my fingers in the mouth of a bluefish to pull out a hook, and zap, I had to get 4 stitches. Wow, look at them. So they're eating the little land, those little eel-like things. All right. I stood up in the dory to watch the show the bluefish were putting on. Suddenly, 5 huge tuna appeared in the bay. Look at them. The tuna were chasing and eating the bluefish. Do those tuna look about the same size as this boy here or bigger?
Bigger.
Yeah, they look bigger. Those are big fish. You can see one of them that's little fin is coming above the water. I've been scared a few times, but I was terrified when killer whales came into the bay chasing the tuna. I didn't know what to do. Here's the killer whales. But it all started to make sense. Killer whales eat tuna, tuna eat bluefish, bluefish eat mackerels, mackerels eat sand eels eat shrimp, and shrimp eat plankton. I know one thing, I didn't want to become part of the food chain. Help, help, where's my mom? Just as I decided to row back to shore, whammo! A humongous humpback whale breached right in front of me. Look how big that thing is. It's huge. But wait, humpback whales don't eat killer whales. Humpbacks eat plankton and krill, which is some of the teeniest creatures in the ocean. The food chain is really more like a food web. Well, that's a big whale there, giant. I should have been smart like the seals and stayed near shore. The harbor seals had sensed the danger and pulled themselves out of the water to escape the killer whales. So here's the seals. One time when I visited my brother in California, we saw seals right on some of the wharfs right next to the water. And they looked just like this. Sometimes you can see them at a zoo. Have you guys ever seen seals at a zoo? Anybody been to a zoo and seen some seals?
Has anybody? We have 2 friends who have.
Yep, seals are fun to see. They're very smart. All of a sudden, a killer whale swam by chasing a tuna. The tuna jumped out of the water and smashed into my dory. Oh no, I was capsized. Thank God I had my life jacket on there. Uh-oh, what's going to happen next? I should have stayed with the boat to wait for help, but I was scared and I started swimming. I swam through the shrimp, the eels, the mackerels, the bluefish, the tuna, the killer whales, and the humpback whale. It was cold. I had water in my nose, but I kept swimming toward the rock in the middle of the bay. Look at all those fish there. That's a lot of fish.
That's not.
I made it. I pulled myself up by grabbing onto the seaweed. Just then, I heard my mom's voice. Danny, you tell the best stories when you're in the bathtub. You should write a book. Oh, he was just pretending in the bathtub. He was just thinking about the ocean. He wasn't actually out there. But he's got some playfish there, and he's got a play boat. So